I'm watching Hello Okanagan from Calais.
Hey Peter, who's on the show today?
We got the CEO from viaSport.
We've also got Bregje from the city of Penticton. Peter, who else do we have?
We got Bruce Hamilton from the Kelowna Rockets.
We've also got Kai from TOFC and the Vernon Indoor Soccer Center.
So today's episode's all about sports. It's been over 2 months since not only have we seen sports on television, but participated in sports ourselves or our children. And we have some great guests today that are going to tackle that question that we all have about getting back out there. But David, I want to talk to you first. We've been talking about these documentaries on television. That's basically the only sports we can get, but they're slowly starting to come back. Like the German soccer league actually came back a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, that's right. Some pretty interesting stuff actually with the German Bundesliga. So really the first kind of taste of team sporting events in large manners like that, where they're played in stadiums without any fans, which was pretty crazy, mainly because you can actually hear everything that is happening on the field, especially all the trash talk that is happening. Yeah. I know that there's already been some, if I'm not mistaken, I think there's some fines that have already been shelled out for some things that have been said on the field. So the players will definitely have to watch what they're saying, because the fan noise is not going to drown that out at this moment.
Speaking of which, though, the second weekend of the Bundesliga, one of the teams actually asked all their fans to send photos of themselves cheering on their team with a jersey or a sign or whatever. The team himself took it upon themselves to make full cutouts of those fans from like bust up, I guess, and put them in all the first 10 rows of seats. So when the players are down low in the corner of their eye, they kind of see something. And then another team took it to the next level. In their second game, they brought in fan noise, crowd chants. Because if a lot of people don't know about soccer, a lot of clubs, I'd say the majority of the clubs, have about 10 songs that they sing within their own team. Some songs have been around for generations, and some songs have just been reworded to insert the player's name. And some of them are popular songs where they insert the player's name. So I think it's really cool where they're piping in this music and chanting, I should say, and clapping and everything. Just it's kind of weird looking at it when you're watching it, but then you get used to it. And I think it's great, especially for the players. They need to get jacked up a little bit for their game.
Yeah, they need to get that feel again. I mean, the next thing you got to think is like, where technology is going. Will we come into a point where you're getting like tickets where you can have virtual tickets, where your hologram is going to the stadium and you've got the virtual fans there. So going to be interesting to see where it goes from here. I myself have still been playing some tennis. Thankfully, that and golf seem to be the only sports that
there's no physical contact. Yeah, there's no physical contact.
Yeah, and easy to distance and everything. So but yeah, definitely missing kicking a soccer ball around and a few of the other sports. You get watching, like you said, the documentaries. You get watching The Last Dance. The Michael Jordan documentary makes you want to pick up a basketball and go to the basketball courts and try some dunks. And
yeah. Speaking of which, going back to soccer, I heard that La Liga, the Spanish league, is coming back. The Italian league is looking to come back, and the English league is speaking about it right now, so we'll have dates with them. But also in North America, the NBA is considering using Disney World in Florida as a main hub. There's enough hotels there and practice facilities and a couple of big arenas, I guess, that they can actually keep themselves in a tight-knit community where after they've kind of isolated themselves for 14 days, when they all are there, nobody's allowed to come and go except for some of the staff members, but they will get tested all the time as well. But I think that's a really cool idea. Now baseball's looking at the same thing, and I think they're talking about Arizona, where there's enough baseball fields within a few miles of each other where they can kind of keep everybody in one area and less traveling, less chances of bumping into anybody else. And speaking of bumping in, I mean, those physical sports are the ones everybody worries about, but if after 14 days you haven't been tested positive, I think it should be a-okay as long as people don't come and go within that isolated bubble that these guys are trying to live in.
Yeah, and I mean that's definitely an interesting concept. It'll almost come about as like going away to the military, going overseas, because at that point, like, they're going to be isolating for 2 weeks, and then they're going to be stuck on that facility until the season's over, the playoffs are over, whatever else is done. But yeah, I know, and there's been chatter about the NHL starting back up again too. So
Exactly.
Lots of sports are definitely talking about getting things going and seeing how they can get back into broadcasting and everything. So I think the big thing that's going to come from this, though, is going to be the people are definitely going to cherish and value the fandom and the actually being able to go to live events and everything more. And even the people watching on TV will see the impact and the value that fans actually bring to even the television experience.
Definitely.
So we definitely will. I think there's going to be good from it. We won't take it for granted anymore and everything. So it'll be really good.
And the one thing that you and I do every time we do the show is we do a virtual high five or virtual chest bump, whatever. Watching the Bundesliga, these guys can't hug each other after they score, so they do the elbow bump and they do like the far away hug. That's what you're going to be seeing in all the North American sports as well. I mean, these guys aren't going to go around like, slapping each other's butts or giving each other high fives or big hugs or anything like that. It's going to have to be like an elbow bump or something from afar, I guess, just for now. But it's the new reality that we all live in. And, if it's what we have to do to get sports back, just do it. Be safe. We're really excited to have from the West Coast, Charlene Krepiakevich, the CEO of viaSport. How are you, Charlene?
I'm well, thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to talk with you in Vernon today.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks, Charlene. It's good to see you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about viaSport?
Yeah, so viaSport was established in 2011 as a legacy from the 2010 games, and really our job, we're a nonprofit society, and our job is to work with government, the provincial government, and amateur sport organizations to grow and foster amateur sport in the province. So we work with, probably about 70 to 80 different sport organizations and help them kind of at the provincial level. And then they work with their local clubs and whatnot in communities across the province. So the membership in sort of organized amateur sport is about 4,100 clubs around the province with about 800,000 members, and 55% of them or so are youth, like children and youth. So a real focus on fostering sport with youth, and eventually, hopefully, carrying that right through to adulthood.
Wonderful. Cool. And what would you say the state of amateur sport is right now?
Well, like every industry, every sector, every person is, been impacted by the pandemic, and sport is no different. And so, like a lot of businesses, a lot of organizations, we had to pause, amateur sport during the last couple of months. And then now we are looking at sort of a return to sport plan. And so the provincial government has asked viaSport to develop a set of guidelines, and so we're working with a whole bunch of different partners and other sport bodies to sort of develop a set of guidelines that the provincial sport organizations will look at to help build out their plan moving forward. So there's different phases of sort of this post-COVID world, and so we have to kind of respect the Dr. Henry's guidelines around social distancing and sanitization and activities, indoor versus outdoor, and competitions and size of groups and all of those things. So we're trying to create a set of guidelines that everyone could look at as sort of a baseline in terms of how they look at returning to sport, because it will be a phased approach. What we did before COVID will not likely what we'll see right away in sort of this first phase of the return to sport plan.
No, totally. It's definitely something I personally, and I know you as well, Peter, have been definitely thinking about is what is the sporting world going to look like, and at the professional level, but also at the amateur level, which is such a big part of recreation, tourism, and so many communities just in general. So what are some other things that you foresee in I guess the new normal for amateur sports and everything? Like what are some things you guys are looking for, some recommendations that you put forward?
Yeah, it's a fair question. I mean, I think every sport's going to kind of apply these kind of guidelines a little bit differently. But for example, we want to look at sports that could come back sooner because they're outdoor and perhaps they're not team based. Well, you look at golf, for example, is a good, a great first starting point is that you can play golf without being in a team competition. It's an individual sport, right? Tennis similarly. So those are the sports that will come back in sort of earlier phases, and then team sports are going to have to look at different kinds of activities to do in this first phase of sort of this return to sport plan. So and focus on kind of individual activities and drills and skill development rather than team competitions, right? Because we have to look at the spaces, we have to look at the size of the teams and where are they coming from, and how do we protect the players in terms of their touching of equipment or sharing of equipment and all of those things. So it'll be a very sort of slow and phased return, and probably a focus on individual activities in the beginning, and then as things slowly unfold, we'll see, more and more activities rolled out in time.
Well, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for being part of Hello Okanagan.
Yeah, for sure. And your listeners and viewers can go to our website. We have a whole section devoted to return to play plans. So if anybody has any questions, they can go there and find out more. So thanks a lot for the opportunity. Okay, bye for now.
Thank you so much, Charlene.
Hey guys, don't forget to subscribe. We really appreciate that. And hit us a like. Hey guys, we're really happy to be live on location. We have Kai Topinrud from the Vernon Soccer Center where we are live. We're going to try a couple shots in here, and then we're going to go outside because the sun just came out. As a soccer guy, I'm dying to kick the ball around again, but we have some extraordinary questions to ask, but we know we're going to get better answers back from this gentleman who is a soccer master in North Okanagan, and he actually does a lot of academy work and also has a connection with the Vancouver Whitecaps. First thing I wanted to ask is, as a guy that plays in one of your leagues, we were right at the last game when all this happened. What kind of communication did people have with you, or what were they asking right off the get-go when the pandemic first kicked in a couple months ago?
It was a little tricky. There was a lot of trepidation about actually playing. People were worried about it before things actually came down, and then March 13th, sort of everything hit the fan. Canada Soccer shut down all soccer activity. The indoor league itself isn't sanctioned, and therefore doesn't fall under Canada Soccer rules per se, but in the interest of safety, we decided to shut her down, and I think most of the players on the teams were behind that. So it was kind of too bad because we were down to the final two teams, I think.
We were final. The games. We were right down to the finals, and then we had the semifinals, and then 2 days later we found out about the pandemic. As far as your camps, were they still in the middle of it, end of it, or?
We were the 13th. We were supposed to do our final Whitecaps Academy indoor session in here, and that was canceled. We got word mid-morning that things were shut down, so we had to get hold of everybody and cancel that. And then there was the ripple effect from all of that. Soccer registration for outside for the house leagues and rep soccer and the high performance leagues the high performance league was already going. The house and rep soccer teams, everybody was training and getting ready for the season, and just a couple of weeks ago, we had to cancel the house league season. And then now BC Soccer has canceled the provincial championships, and Canada's canceled the national championships. So there's still a decision to be made for rep soccer, but it's a difficult situation right now.
No, it's gonna be interesting to obviously see where it goes from here. And what about the soccer school academy? Did that get canceled as well, or is that just the first semester?
No, we got that through. That ended at the end of January.
Yeah.
This coming year could be a question as to whether it gets pushed to the second semester or stays in the first semester. But hopefully by August we know which way this thing is going to go. As long as physical distancing requirements are eliminated, things can go ahead, games can start again, training can start again. Before that, things are going to have to be very, very controlled if we're going to be allowed to come back to training. Players are going to have to stay in their own certain sized area, 8x8 square, for example, with space around it for coaches to move, and very, very controlled atmosphere. So we'll have to wait for the health authority in Canada Soccer to let us know.
Really packing the fun in there then, hey?
Oh yeah.
That'll be
all personal skills development.
So as of now, minor soccer, there's not going to be any leagues this year, because they're only usually up till like June, aren't they, or something?
Yeah, they go till the end of June. So all the little guys, the 3 to 7 year olds, that had to be canceled. The house soccer, which runs sort of the community soccer that runs April through the end of June, that's been canceled. The rep soccer, so Vernon United, that plays for the B Cup, B Provincial Cup, that hasn't been canceled yet. But we're now getting to the point where it's going to be very, very difficult to fit a season in. And again, if there's no physical distancing, or if there is physical distancing, I'm not sure how you play a game. I guess you can massage some rules a little bit, but it's pretty tough if you can't take the ball from somebody.
No, it's going to be. I remember all the drills like growing up and everything where you're playing. You can't like take the ball off somebody else. It's all passing. So there's ways to obviously do it, but it'll definitely take away from the game. Are you at all worried about a second wave that they're talking about announcing, and they're announcing potentially to come in the fall? Like if they do pick things up by August, is there a worry about a second wave?
I don't worry about it locally here so much, because there hasn't really been very much locally. Really, from Penticton to Kamloops to the Kootenays has really been not very much. But I do worry about it in the bigger centers. My high performance club, we play down on the coast, and there's some areas there which would be interesting. We play 6 of the other clubs are right down on the lower mainland, so you do have to worry about that a little bit, especially if, and you see things on TV now where people are gathering in parks and, like they're side by side doing stuff they probably shouldn't be doing yet in some of the centers that have been really hard hit. So you wonder if there could be a second wave, and if there is that going to shut things down tighter than we shut down in the first place, right?
I don't see this happening, but I got to ask, because our league, obviously for outdoor, I think I looked at it, we would have had our 8th game tomorrow night.
Yeah.
If doors open and we can get back in August, did you guys ever think about how you can squeeze in all those games, say in like 2.5, 3 months?
It may have to be some sort of an abbreviated season. It may be, instead of the normal X number of games, I can't even remember how many you play, say it's 20, maybe it becomes a 12-game season. But again, now you're talking about field availability for all of the other sports groups that are trying to do the same thing, and there will be a number of obstacles to that. But it would be, obviously we would try our best to get everybody going again if there's any way to do it.
So we're hoping at least that there'll be an indoor season by October. Keeping our fingers crossed.
I would very much hope for that, for sure. And you've got to think that in September, some point when all schools are back, cold flu season, you're going to know pretty quickly if there's a flare-up, and you can get past that. Like if you can get into September and things look relatively promising, I think that we could easily get back in here and get moving again. Like I say, especially in the Okanagan, where there really hasn't been.
Do you want to mention some of the academies and the Whitecap connections, everything that you guys do?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got, as I've mentioned here, NOISA runs the house programming and the little tykes there, and
NOISA is the North Okanagan
Youth Soccer Association. Yeah. So the way soccer works in basically everywhere, you have your little mites programs and they graduate up into house soccer. The better ones there that are more motivated, they will then go into their rep programming, and then from across the region, from Penticton through to Kamloops, all of the best ones there can try out for something called Thompson Okanagan Football Club, which is one of the 8 clubs in the BC Soccer Premier League, and that's the highest level of soccer, youth soccer you can play in Canada. So the best ones there will come into our club, which is from 13 to 18 years. And that acts as a feeder for Whitecaps programming, so residency programming for the Whitecaps women's national team programming, BC provincial programming, and as a feeder to the universities. So traditionally about 80% of our graduating players will get a university scholarship. Plus we've had several kids get into the residency program, several girls into the women's national team program. So that's kind of the hierarchy here, and then guys that finish that and they're playing at university and they finish that, we hope to get them back in coaching with us, playing in the indoor, outdoor leagues, and try and just keep people involved for as long as we can in soccer, not just done when they're 16, 17 and done with high school. So, yeah.
Awesome. I miss it for sure.
Yeah, you got to get back into it. Well, awesome. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no worries.
There
we go.
Hey guys, don't forget to check us out on Facebook.
And Instagram too.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce Bruce Hamilton, who's on board right now. He's the president and GM of the Kelowna Rockets from the Western Hockey League. Hello, Bruce. How are you?
Great. Nice to be on.
So, Bruce, first question is, I wanted to ask you, how many games did you guys have remaining in the season before it got cut off?
You know, we had, well, no, I think it was probably around 8 or 9 because we had 3 home games left. And, you know, I think it was Kamloops twice maybe and Vancouver. So they're all big games for us. And at that time of the year, they're always very popular.
Yeah.
And at that point, you guys are obviously on track for playoffs. When would that have started, and how would that have looked?
Yeah, we would have started right at the end of March, and
Okay.
you know, got going then. And you know, we were going to probably play Kamloops the first round, which would have been exciting for our fans for sure. They had a tremendous year, and we were looking forward to it because we were going to basically be healthy by then for the first time. We were only going to be missing one player, and I think that our team was going to be a significantly better team than it had been with, you know, we were missing 6 guys most of the season.
And you guys were also going to host the Memorial Cup. Is that right?
Yeah, we should be playing tonight. Would be you know, it was supposed to have started really last Thursday with the banquet. And then we would have had games Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and we would have been on tonight, I believe. And, you know, the city would have been electric by now because the first weekend, especially if the host team gets out of the gate and gets a win in the first 2 games, really creates a lot of excitement for the tournament for the rest of the week. And, you know, we're going into Okanagan weather this week, which is going to be stunning. You know, the golf tournament was supposed to be Wednesday, and then, of course, get into the playoffs for the weekend. And, you know, we're expecting our kind of weather. So it would have just been so exciting for our community and the valley, for that matter.
Exactly. The whole Highway 97 would have been a buzz.
Well, for sure. And the interest in the event, and of course, it's nationally televised every game. So it's just great exposure for our city and the valley, which we all can use that right now.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, 100%. So, I mean, with that being said, though, are there any plans for next season? Any word on like how the WHL is going to look, even, and any future Memorial Cup plans? Obviously.
Well, next year it'll fall into the rotation it always follows, which is Ontario next year and then Quebec the year after. So 2023 is the first year that we would be, you know, eligible to have it, and I'm sure there'll be a process. Well, I'll be disappointed if we aren't offered a real good opportunity to look at it. And I'm sure, you know, our group would really like to do it. We had an amazing committee lined up. Tom Dias was the chair, but it was so many events were organized that, you know, had to go by the wayside. And like I said right at the start, it's such a big event for the city that it's in, but the whole area. And there's only 6,000 people can get in the rink, but we had a tent set up out front that would have held, close to 2,000, and that would have been part of the party out front and, viewing areas. So we were really excited about what was going to happen.
Now, how are the players doing right now? Are you guys, you finding them still chatting with each other on Zoom or on social media or anything and kind of staying in touch?
Yeah, our coaches have done a real good job of communicating with them steady. They, have their little network where they're in touch all the time. And of course, they're all back on training programs, so they're in touch with our trainer all the time, and all that's done, via their cell phones, so that they're following what he has for programs for them. But they're limited; they haven't been allowed to be in a gym, and we're doing a lot of stuff at home that a lot of it is done with body weight now, and they're working, but they're disappointed. I mean, they all knew that this was going to be an exciting year, and to be on a host team, you're in, and you get an opportunity to get tremendous exposure this time of the year for themselves.
Yeah, no, it's definitely difficult. I mean, at least silver lining starting to open up and everything with like, for starters, with the gyms open up. Hopefully they're going to get back in there pretty soon. And eventually, hopefully we're going to figure out ways that we can get back into the team sports and hopefully get things rolling again. Definitely wishing you guys the best for 2023 then.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Bruce. Thanks for being on the show.
My pleasure, guys. Great job.
Thank you, Bruce. We appreciate it. All right, our next guest is Bregje Kozak from the city of Penticton. Thank you so much for joining us, Bregje.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So obviously, like, pretty interesting times, and definitely new things unfolding every single day, almost every hour, it even feels like. So far as the city of Penticton is concerned, how are your fields, rinks, like your sporting facilities?
Well, you're right. Things are changing very quickly all the time. We get emails one morning, and then the afternoon we get more emails that clarify what we sent to us in the morning. So lots of moving pieces, but right now we're happy to say we have all our outdoor facilities open. So all of our soccer fields, baseball diamonds, tennis courts, pickleball courts, our sport courts. This weekend we're going to be opening our basketball courts, and our playgrounds are going to be next, which is going to be happening pretty much an Okanagan initiative. We're going to be releasing that for this weekend to be opening up the playgrounds.
So that's all for individuals to come and enjoy themselves. But what about organized sports? What have you heard about that?
Yeah, so that's exactly right. So this is all casual use. There's no programming at this point. Organized sport is working hard. viaSport, Sport BC, and the BCRPA, which is the BC Recreation and Parks Association, have all been working together to start looking at guidelines for organized sport. So the way it's working now, the provincial sport organizations, or the PSOs, are pretty much making up the guidelines in accordance with the provincial health officer and Interior Health. And once that gets approved, it'll get distilled down to the local sports organizations, which is the ones that all the municipalities would be working with in terms of booking fields and getting the facilities ready to go.
Fair enough. And as far as sports are concerned, are there any sports that you think may not happen in the foreseeable future, in the near future?
Well, when we think about sport, we think about games. There will be no gameplay, no contact in the foreseeable future. When we say we're going back to sport, it's skills and drills. It's social distancing. All of the hygiene and sanitation has to be in place. And so it's going to look more like on a soccer field, you might have lanes or quadrants where kids can play in, but they have to stay in their own square. They cannot share equipment, and there's absolutely no contact. So it's not a traditional sport as most people think of sports. And there's a big difference between recreational sports and organized sports as well. So for example, tennis, people are playing tennis and they're actually playing games. So they're doing their sport, but we're not allowing leagues or tournaments or anything like that at this point yet until they get approval from the provincial sport organizations.
And if a coach wanted to, like say a soccer coach or a football coach wanted to grab a few of his kids and do a little bit of training, is that allowed? Is there only a certain amount of kids allowed to be in one area?
Yeah, and so we look for the sports organizations to tell us what's been approved, and then we can help them facilitate in our fields and arenas, etc. But yes, that's absolutely what I think is going to be happening, is that we'll see coaches, probably more elite athletes at this point with skills and drills, getting out there with smaller numbers. And there's a lot of kids and adults that are looking really forward to getting back to playing. We're doing similar with hockey. So the Okanagan hockey group is a big tenant of ours in our complex here. And they're going back to one of their arenas on June 1st. And they're going to have 6 kids on the ice, and they're going to be playing in lanes and squares on the ice. They're going to try that out for a little while. And then in July and August, they hope to open it up into summer camps. But it's very slow. We're going to try it out slowly, see how it goes, modify, and then move on to the next step. And that's pretty much what our motto is with everything, even with tennis and pickleball and all of our outdoor facilities. We have to monitor and kind of see how things are going. So that's whether it's sport or just casual use.
Totally. It's definitely going to be a learning curve all around to try and figure out, obviously, what you're allowed to do. And it is, like you said, it's important to make sure that we continue to hear from the main sporting organizations, the BC Soccers, the BC Tennis, and obviously at the national level as well, Tennis Canada, etc. So they're going to have all the input that they think is best, right?
Yeah, well, we hope so. That's where we're taking our guidance from. So
I wanted to ask you, with this time off now, in a sort, are the people that run the rinks or certain courts and fields, are they doing any upkeep, or is there anything new coming in, something old going out?
Well, so in the beginning, when everything was shut down in terms of all of our indoor facilities, so our community center, our pool, all of our arenas, we did all of what we typically do in summer maintenance. We did that right away. So the facilities are ready to go. The indoor facilities are a little bit more complicated, because just because the building is ready to go doesn't mean the staff are ready to go. There's a lot that goes with having a big operation like a community center. An arena is a little bit easier. You can get kids on the ice. Well, you have to put the ice in first, which none of our arenas have. But once we get the ice in, get the kids on the ice, and it's a little bit easier because it's a separate building that doesn't really need any public access. So we can book out to exclusive groups and really contain it within the building. But yeah, it becomes really challenging in terms of now looking at our sports fields and baseball diamonds, etc. Because when COVID first happened in March, we didn't even have those individuals on staff. They're typically seasonal staff, and so we haven't brought them back yet. So that's something, as we're starting to release some of our outdoor facilities, we also need to look at the staffing component. But we want to make sure that our community can be served. And if they're ready to go, I think we'll be able to make it happen. Again, it might be small steps and not the way they're used to seeing it happen, but we're here to work with the community, and people are getting fatigued with being isolated. Kids need to get out there. So we're here to help facilitate that.
Wonderful.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Bregje.
Oh, no problem. Thank you.
So David, next week I got a joke for you.
Oh yeah? Is it a knock-knock joke?
No, it's not going to be me. It's going to be a professional. We got the one and only Tim
Thank
Nutt.
God.
Yeah. We have Tim Nutt. He's going to be on the show next week. And we have a buddy of mine named Rob who runs Trainwreck Comedy as well, to talk about the lighter side of everything that's happening and how they're basically dealing with everything. But I'm sure we're going to hear some great jokes.
That's awesome. Looking forward to it. That's our show today. Thank you guys so much for watching. And we'll see you all next week with hopefully some laughs, better than Peter's jokes.